Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second track of the INDIGO Classes at the Control Conference today. My name is Niels de Hooft. I'm a writer and journalist, and I have the honor of presenting some great speakers to you today. Ah, there I am. Wow. Yeah, that's humbling. So. This is much more booming than I personally am. The next speaker is Olivier Thijssen of Ronimo, and they recently did a very successful Kickstarter campaign, and this talk will be all about that campaign. What did they do? What went right? What went wrong, maybe? You have some cool statistics, I heard. So take it away for Olivier.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for that splendid introduction. I hope I can live up to it. So yeah, we did a Kickstarter for Awesome Starstorm. I'm going to talk about a little bit how we did it and what our experience with doing a Kickstarter was. So let's get to it. Yes, it works. So a little background information about Ronimo, the company where I work. I founded it with 6 friends. So we were with 7 guys. Personally, I do some art, a little bit of design stuff on the side, and we split all the business tasks between us 7 founders. So I do a lot of financial stuff as well. Somebody has to say. Astronauts was released in 2012 on a lot of platforms, and across all these platforms we sold over 1 million units. So that's quite a lot. Didn't expect it to do that well. Astronauts, for those of you who don't know, it's a multiplayer online battle arena game, like Dota or League of Legends, pretty familiar names. But it's a side-scroller, so it adds something to the mix, which is something we like to do at Ronimo. We like to add twists to our games. So we did a Kickstarter. And it was effective. It did really well. We ended up with $430,000, and actually it's still running on our website, so might even become more than that. So how did this happen? How did it become so successful? Because we didn't even expect it to do that well. So, well, this is the beginning of that history. We started out working on Astronauts, we did some support, and all of a sudden we came across this Indiegogo campaign for Skullgirls, which suddenly amounted to almost or over $800,000. So that piqued our interest, because we were thinking, yeah, why shouldn't we be able to do this with Astronauts? Astronauts is maybe almost as big as Skullgirls at the time. So we were thinking, yeah, what they can do, maybe we can fit into Astronauts as well. So, yeah, we were already doing support for the game, as I said, but it was always limited. You know, you can do support, but if you don't know if the game's still around in 6 months, you can't really make features that will be out in 6 months. So we always had to keep our support small and our production cycle small. That was a really big limitation to what we could do, and some stuff you really, from a creative standpoint, you really want those features in the game, but you can't really monetize them. Like stuff like spectator mode or other features that you can't directly buy. It's hard to pinpoint what that does for your game financially, and also in terms of getting new players. So that we were always limited in what kind of support we could do. So yeah, we obviously want to make Astronauts better. We're all creative people, so we want to make the best game possible. Also, a good reason for us to do the Kickstarter was why not? It's knowledge. If it fails, we at least know how to do a Kickstarter and what went wrong. And we thought it could be a cool way to capitalize on Astronauts' success, because Astronauts was already doing pretty well, and we were looking at ways to get more out of it, keep the train running, so to speak. So, what should it be? We were asking ourselves. So actually, this is one sentence that took quite a long time to come up with. We were thinking about how can you say, okay, it's a year's worth of support, but you have to pay now for it. It just sounds silly. It sounds weird, because people are accustomed to getting support for free. That's why it's called support. So we were looking for a way to mold that into something you can basically sell, because Kickstarter is a place where you can sell stuff. And we came up with, why not make it a big expansion with lots of features, and we rolled those features out over time. And that was also a good way to put a banner on there, so people could refer to it easily. It's easier to talk about, helps the whole community aspect. So the Star Store became a thing. How does Kickstarter work? For those of you, you probably know this. There's a main goal that you need to reach, otherwise you don't get any money at all. There is a way to do it without a main goal, and you get any money you raise regardless of what your main goal is, but you pay a bigger amount to Kickstarter, bigger percentage. There's also tiers. Tiers are higher amounts of money that you rake in that unlock extra features for your project. So you get a lot of tiers for Starstone, and I'm going to come back on this as well. And you give people rewards for pledging. That's basically the system. So these are the tiers in the end we got. We've got a bunch of characters, at 200,000 unlocked new maps, new music, announcers, custom games, and a lot more stuff. Better spectator mode, new characters, new music. These tiers we didn't get. We never imagined that we would get to like 500,000 or even 300,000. But we just put them in for the heck of it, and so it could be a possibility, which would be a cool fantasy to have. So why Kickstarter? This might be a question. Why not Indiegogo? It's easier to reach. Indiegogo is you can do an Indiegogo campaign if you're from Europe. You can do a Kickstarter campaign if you're from Europe. So you have to find an American partner for it. So that's a good reason to do Indiegogo. But Kickstarter is just way better. It's bigger. There are better projects on there. It has a bigger name. There's more community involvement. There's it's just bigger in every sense of the word. So it's not really a contest. So we did have to find an American partner to run the Kickstarter for us, which became Happy On Laboratories. It's actually a one-man game company by Jamie Fristrom. He worked on Spider-Man games, and he's now an indie, and one of his games is Energy. It's a pretty neat idea, so look it up if you can. So he helped us set up the Kickstarter campaign, which was pretty scary because you have a lot of money coming in through one guy, and if he decides to, I'm not gonna give you the money, I'm gonna go on a vacation instead, then you're basically screwed. So that was scary at times, but he was a cool dude, and everything turned out fine. So once the Kickstarter started, we pretty soon realized, wow, this is going really well. We've reached our main goal after 1 week. We've got almost 10,000 backers, which is pretty amazing. That's 10,000 people backing our campaign. This is our graph of how the backing went. This is pretty much a standard Kickstarter graph. This is almost perfect. This is almost the ideal Kickstarter. Almost every project goes like this. There are some exceptions, but it's mostly, it goes really fast in the first couple of days, then it dies down. Then you get in a sort of slump where you really have to put in a lot of effort to keep things going, and then it picks up to the start because people, oh wow, there's so little time, maybe I need to pledge a little bit more. Yeah. So this is the goal we tried to reach, and we end up there. So this is what the average backer gave us, $43. Which is quite a lot if you think about it. I mean, normally it's a game that costs $10 to buy on Steam, or less if you buy it on a Humble Bundle or on a Steam sale. So this was quite amazing to have people show so much support. This is where our backers were represented. Almost no one backed in the $5 tier. Almost no one gave us $5. This is what we got in the end. A lot of people gave 15, 30, and it's almost curved with 30 dipping slightly below. This is the amount of money we got from each team. Oh wow, that's actually a mistake somewhere. Because the 10,000 shows nothing, but here it shows something. This one is a good graph. There's two guys actually gave us, or pledged $10,000, one of which didn't came true. One was an oil sheikh from Dubai, and the other one was a millionaire from San Francisco, who coincidentally really loved astronauts. Yeah, so this, you can see how very strangely the $50 and $75 tiers are very prominent. And if you compare this to other Kickstarters, you see this even better. Other Kickstarters get most of their money out of the $30 tier. This is just some of the big Kickstarters there were back then. When we started the Kickstarter, we looked at, well, what did other Kickstarters rake in? And on the left side you see what we got. So somehow our $50 and $75 tiers did way better than the standard $50 and $100 tiers that other Kickstarters use. So why is that? I'm going to answer that question. Tiers and all the other stuff combined. I know this is the rewards we gave people. So we gave people shirts, skins, toys, a record with soundtrack, a lot of stuff basically. On average, for each dollar that we make on the Kickstarter, these rewards cost us 13 cents. So that's 13% of reward costs. Might turn out to be more, because we still have to send those rewards. In total, 30% of the money that is pledged you don't get. It's for Kickstarter, it's for Amazon payments, it's for the rewards, and all that kind of stuff. So if you were going to do Kickstarter, you have to take that into account. So this is for our situation. I'm going to answer questions later. This is for our situation specifically. So if you're going to sell something physical instead of a digital game, you're obviously going to make more costs. So Starstorm turned out to be an expansion with all kinds of cool features. This is basically what we got, and this is what we didn't get. Graphics. So why, a question many people ask us, why did you choose for crowdfunding instead of other stuff? Well, it's one way to make the game better. You can use an existing game and make it better than it is. It's pretty simple. It's free money. Oh, there we go. It's pretty much free money. I don't mean that in the sense that you get money and you don't have to do anything for it, but there's little strings attached. If you compare it to publishers or stuff like that, there's always strings attached, very tight schedules, stuff like that, and you don't have that with this. You don't have to give away a cut of what you make out of it, so you can spend everything on the development of the game. You don't have to take into account that the publisher is going to take some of the money. And it's also a good way to include the community in the development of your game, which is very important and very worth your while. And also, it's a good way to get yourself noticed. Yeah, we noticed that once we did a Kickstarter, it's almost as big as a release of a new game, so it's a very good moment to get some attention towards you. So what's a risk? This is one of the biggest risks that we've talked about. If you rake in $100,000, but in the end it turns out you need 20,000 more because you didn't plan carefully. That's a big risk for Kickstarter. If you have a publisher, you might be able to ask them for a little bit more money and adjust the deal, give them a little bit more percentage instead. Something like that, you can renegotiate your deals. You can't do that with a Kickstarter, that's impossible. So that's a big risk, but we thought, well, we're willing to take that risk because it's a game that still runs well, and if we make bad assumptions, we can just use the money that we make from astronauts to fund what we lack ourselves instead. Why not fund it yourself? Well, we might be able to fund it yourself, but it would still be a big financial risk. And also, you don't have a guarantee to the community and to yourself. You don't actually know that it's gonna be worth your while, and that makes you will be a lot less how do you call it, ruthless in what you pursue. So if you know, okay, we've got this amount of money, we're gonna make the best game out of it that we can. That's way more interesting than being trying to cut your costs all the time. So you just know, okay, we can make something for this cost. Yeah, so when we started out the campaign, we had a little bet. Some people bet we would only get $5,000. Some people betted we would get 400,000 with an average of 154. So as a team, we did expect to make it. But there were some very pessimistic people and some very optimistic people in there. Why did it go so well? What's the reason that the Kickstarter had such big success? So that's a hard question to answer. Well, one thing is the video. We had a really good video. We had a couple of guys work overtime on this. This has been an incredibly big effort. This is a little stat about the video. We had 83,000 views, and we had almost 10,000 people who pledged. So that's an incredible conversion rate. You don't get that with any demo for any game whatsoever. So that goes to show how good the video actually worked. We had a little spoof in the video. It had some karaoke. It was really short and simple, and it focused on the key elements of the game. We didn't go into details at all. We listed the features, but we didn't even really talk about what those features were. We just stated this is going to be in there and it's going to be awesome. That's basically the gist of our video. Yeah, it started with 4 Americans and they like big explosions. So that's what we did. One really important thing is good audio. We had Sonic Picnic come over to record the audio, something that I see in a lot of Kickstarter videos from failed Kickstarters, also from the Netherlands, is that they have really, really crappy audio. And no matter how good your video is, or no matter how good your message is, if you have crappy audio, it just seems hacked. It seems amateuristic. So that helped us a lot. So we had good audio and we had a good video, and we put a lot of effort into that. And it was targeted at the Astronauts community. So we knew exactly who we were going after. So that helped tremendously. We chose, okay, we're going for the Astronauts community. We don't have to show them the game. We don't have to show them what Astronauts is. We can just tell them, oh, it's going to be way, way better and it's going to be awesome. So that helped a lot. So it was very focused. Another thing that was very important was a flashy and visual Kickstarter page. People don't read text, people watch at shiny images. So we had a lot of effort going into making each tier and each reward look very awesome. This also takes a lot of work and went through a lot of iterations. So yeah, that's something I would also recommend for doing any Kickstarter. It's awesome. Like I explained, it's a game that people know. So that helps a lot. You don't have to explain what the game is. And we had cool rewards. We really thought about what would our community like to see in Kickstarter. What would they like to have? So yeah, basically that. So the main thing is about the Kickstarter, it's not, you can't expect to get a Kickstarter page up and running in a week with one guy. It's lots of guys for lots of weeks to get the best Kickstarter you can make, and you have to do a lot of iterations. The first thing you make is never good enough, and you have to talk about what you want to sell. So we did a lot of meetings about what we wanted to sell, and everything changed almost every week, but that made sure that in the end we had something awesome. So. Yeah, we also had really cool updates, and pretty often as well. Of course, if everything goes well, it's fun to do the updates because it's a constant joyride, so to speak. But it's important if one of the goals is to incorporate your community in the design process, you have to do updates a lot. And this is very important. You are able to change the Kickstarter during the process. You obviously can't remove stuff from people. You can say, oh, you bought this, but you're not going to get it anymore. But you can add stuff. So we added some skins to the game. And you can see, and at some point we even gave everyone who pledged $5 or more, I believe, Sword of Soldiers. So you can see that that led to spikes in the amount of people pledging. And this is basically a skin for Coco, which is one of the characters from the game. Yeah, so that worked out really well. We had we put Coco in the $75 tier. Now in the $50 tier there was already Leon. We added another $50 tier with a Coco skin. So you had a Leon skin and a Coco skin in the $50 tier, and you had to choose which one you got. And there's a $75 tier where you get both. And that turned out to work really well because we knew that people who bought the $50 skin were obviously interested in buying skins. So, and it's only $25 away to get another skin. So, we thought a lot about those things and do evil money grabbing schemes. So, yeah. Astronauts community. Yeah, this was obviously, you might think, a big reason of why Kickstarter worked. So, statement. But did they though? How do we know this for sure? Isn't it just people who are on the Kickstarter page who think, oh, this looks cool, let me pledge it? Did the Astronauts community back the campaign? Yes, they did. I'm going to explain right now. 4 out of 5 people chose skins over the game. So there was a tier where people were able to choose between either getting another copy of the game, or a copy of the game, or a skin pack. Most people chose skin pack because they probably already had the game. And it's also a better deal, so this doesn't quite give you a definitive answer. Well, is the Astronauts community big enough to support a Kickstarter like this? Well, there's 1 million people who have Astronauts. Probably most of whom never played it or played less than 1 hour, so that doesn't say everything. There's 26,000 Facebook followers. That's pretty much, or that's a lot, and almost 10,000 Twitter followers, and there's a bunch of dudes talking about Astronauts. That's basically the slide. So the community should be big enough. There's a lot of active players as well. We have seasons in our leaderboard, so each season is 2 months. This is the end of season 5, and we had more than 200,000 active players in those 2 months. So that goes to show that there were a lot of people playing Astronauts in that time. But we did have a free-to-play weekend in that time. So. This is season 6. This is after 3 weeks. We had 50,000 active players. So yeah, there's a lot of people playing Astronauts. Okay, but it's pretty obvious that the Astronauts community has some size and has some weight. But are those people that back the campaign? So we did a little survey on our Facebook, and came out that 65% of people who responded to our Facebook page pledged to Astronauts, Starstorm, which is quite interesting. Who are those people? in our community. Well, they're male. So it's a village of VAs. Yeah, basically the answer, the question I'm trying to answer is who are these people that backed our campaign? So I asked one of the more prominent community members. There's guys who make videos specifically of Astronauts and they get some recognition on YouTube. So I asked one of them called Slow Wolf, and he basically said, well, we're a bunch of weird people. And also one thing was that a lot of people come from a fighting game background or a MOBA background or a Super Smash Brothers background, so all kind of competitive games. Another thing about the Astronauts community is they are not giant dicks, which is something that is true for most Dota players. If you play Dota, there's always one rotten egg in every Dota game. So this is not Astronauts, and this is Astronauts. This is actually fake, but it does show the average Astronauts game and how discussions roll out. So, yeah, another thing that draws community towards Astronauts is fan art. And why is that? That's because Astronauts has a universe. There's a story behind it. It's very visual. It has lots of backstory, lots of characters. Every character has a backstory. Every little item has some flavor text to it, some story, and that really helps get people into the game who like that kind of stuff. Yeah, this is some examples of fan art. Here you go. This is actually our first, how do you call it, cosplayer, cosplaying as Genji. Where are they from? Where is our community from? Well, they're from the United States and they're from Europe, and some of them are from Brazil, and some of them are from Russia. Yeah, it's basically how many people are there on Steam and how active is our community? Another pie chart. We have 18,000 forum topics and over 250,000 posts and more than 10,000 forum members. So there's a lot to talk about in Astronauts. So people really like to talk about stuff. One of the interesting things is people like to mostly talk about tactics and balance and general stuff. And fan art is a small piece, and off topic is a small piece. But tactics and balance is a very big thing. So you're just kindly starting to see that the active part of the community are people who are interested in fighting games, in MOBAs, in Super Smash Brothers. They're interested in talking about tactics and balance. They're the hardcore players. They are people who are attracted to competitive gameplay. So this is another question in our survey on Facebook. How many hours do you play? Well, a lot. People play a lot per week. So this is the amount of time that people have spent in total on the game if we ask them on Facebook. If we look at actual stats of the game, it shows a completely different image. Here it shows that like people more than 100 hours, it's only 5% of the entire install base. But if we ask people, it's more than half actually who played more than 100 hours. So that shows that people who are active on our Facebook page play a lot. Pretty logical. They aren't just anybody, they are people who play the game a lot. Yeah, this. Yeah, we asked them what is your league, and in Astronauts everybody is put into a league that represents skill, and every league is equal in size. So it's all an equal portion of the game, except for League 1, which is for the top 250 people, and actually pretty much everyone in League 1 responded to our Facebook survey. And as they get worse at the game, they are less likely to respond to our questions. So they are less active in active part of the community of the game. So the active part of your community are people who are good at the game. They play a lot and they're good at the game. We also see this is pretty obvious, and we also see it in what kind of things the community comes up with themselves. So they organize tournaments. They actually set up an entire streaming setup where they commentate on games. It's a lot like the StarCraft pro gaming community or Dota pro gaming, all those kind of things. And it's pretty well done. And there's people who spend literally weeks and weeks of effort and time on getting this stuff to work. So it's pretty awesome. So yeah, basically this is the gist of the previous slides. Our hardcore players are basically our community. It's not just people who like the game or who like the visual style or are attracted to the story. It's people who like the gameplay and who are pretty hardcore about it. Those are the people who are the vocal minorities. Yeah, so this is actually a graph of Astronauts and how many people are playing. Don't mind the Astronaut soundtrack thingy there, it just means it's the amount of people who are playing Astronauts at the same time. So you can see that every time we have a big sale, it spikes up and then it slowly starts dropping down. But it always drops down to a higher point than the sale before. So there's always a percentage of players. If you add a lot of players, there's always a percentage that sticks to the game. So it's like, yeah, you throw a lot of players on there, some fall off, but there's always a couple who stay, who will keep playing the game. So what did we do to form such an active community? First of all, we didn't really have choice. If Astronauts wouldn't have enough players, it wouldn't be any fun at all because you would just be running into bots. So you couldn't find a decent game with people in it. So it would either be, okay, you have enough players in the game and then the game is fun and there will be more players and it keeps running from there, or it will be failure. You know, if you don't have enough players, people, oh wow, this game is deserted, I'm not going to play it anymore, and just keeps going downhill. So there's still a chance for a middle ground. And it's a multiplayer game. So you have to have people in the game. So we had to support the game to keep people playing as long as possible to create an active player base. So what did we do? We did a lot of content, community interaction, and the most important thing is we focused on sales volume. We could have made Astronauts a $15 game or a $20 game, especially now with all the content that's in there, but we chose instead for $10. So we had this community. Yeah, you need to have a decent player base. So the game type. This really helps create a community. Some games just can't create community. There probably is a Tetris community, but it's not comparable to the size that the game is. But, games like competitive games, games where you get something to talk about, are the most interesting games to build community on. So competitive gameplay, that's obvious why you have something to talk about. You want to become better at the game. You want to discuss strategies. There's a lot to talk about. That's basically what you need for a game. It needs to be replayable. You need to be able to keep playing it for infinitely. Yeah. So these are the updates that we did. This is all before the Kickstarter. We made a lot of free content, even music, updates, and DLC. Balance updates are very, very important for a community. If you do balance updates, for many people it feels like an entirely new game. There's a lot of stuff you can try out. It's almost worth it for the sake of changing things up, to change things up. because people like the change, and a lot of people stay with Astronauts because the game is always changing, and there's always another character that's a little bit stronger than the rest, or a little bit weaker. But we're always trying to find the perfect balance, but also just the act of changing is very important. And obviously bug fixes. It's a multiplayer game, there's going to be bugs, so we're going to fix them. And we did DLC. So to a lot of players were asking for DLC from the moment we released Astronauts on PC and even on PSN, so we obliged. Yeah, we made a new map even for the game, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, these are some of the characters that we added to the game later. We started out with 6 characters, ended up being 15, I believe, right now. Oh, and this one is interesting. We worked together with Total Biscuit. This one, big YouTube celebrity guy, and yeah, he helped us. With this one, we worked together with Jesse Cox. So we found out, well, if you work with a big YouTuber, that drives sales, and it's really cool to do as well. So it's, we watch those guys online as well. Ayla is a character. This is a character was actually designed by the community in a contest. Yeah, we got some pretty crazy suggestions for the character, and he turned out pretty cool. A lot of talented people in the community. 41 patches, 18 hotfixes. Yeah, lots of patches. This is another thing we did for the community. We give them icons, and people really value stuff like this. You see the icons to the left are people who actually worked at Ronimo or were interns. The duck is for valued community members, which also became a really big thing within the community. And the other icons are for how good you are at the game. Our community interaction is pretty active. We don't have a wall to get to the developers themselves. There's no community manager that has to discuss stuff and then come back later. We just answer everything almost immediately. We try to do that as quick as possible. Yeah, and we post a lot on our forums as well. So. Yeah, so community support is a very, very, very time-consuming thing. Not only is there content creation, but there's also marketing and stuff like that, which takes a lot of time. QA takes, every time you have to make a patch, you have to test it, and it takes the entire company to do it. So if you are going to do a game that needs a lot of support, it's going to take a lot of time, and we underestimate this every time. Now yeah, let me end with another graph. At the top you see the sales, the active players, and the revenue. Here again you can see that every time we have a sale, more and more people keep playing, and there's a slight difference between the sales and the revenue, and that's because of skins. You see, if there isn't a sale, people are basically not buying the game. Well, they are, but not in the amounts that they do when they're skins. So it almost plummets to the bottom, rock bottom. But the actual revenue stays a little bit above, and when you add all these little spikes from skin sales, that actually amounts to a noteworthy percentage of the game, what the game makes. So that's pretty interesting, and that's of course driven by people who are really invested in the game. So that's those hardcore community members that you have to support. So this is basically the main thing of the community. People will stay forever if we keep adding content and if we listen to them. And these people are also keeping the Astronauts game alive. So yeah, they create our player base, they create community created content, they create word of mouth. So it's very tight collaboration between our community and ourselves to keep the game alive, basically. And we managed to do that by just investing a lot of time and a lot of effort into creating that community. and in the end it led to a successful Kickstarter campaign. So development does not end on release, especially for multiplayer games, and this is especially true for Awesomenauts. If you can, and it's also creatively very interesting to do, keep supporting your game, or at least try it. It might be very much worth your while. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. So there's some time for Q&A. Do we have any questions? Ooh.
Sorry. So your success of your Kickstarter campaign is mostly driven by an existing fan base in a way.
Yep.
Do you actually think it's possible, I mean not possible, but plausible to have a successful Kickstarter campaign without an existing fan base?
Yeah, obviously it is possible. It's hard. It's a hard question to answer because it depends on the thing you're trying to sell through Kickstarter. I think you do have to know who you're targeting, and that's one thing that helped with us. And that's a thing you can also have with just a Kickstarter. And there are projects that are started from scratch on Kickstarter that are successful. But most Kickstarters that are successful, they rely on something that's already in some community somewhere. So you kind of need to target some community. It doesn't need to be specifically your game, but it needs to be a community for a game or a thing or something that's lurking within this community, and you have to find that out. So that's basically the trick, I guess.
Anyone else? Over here.
Yeah, to prepare a Kickstarter campaign, you have to invest time and money, so basically money as well.
Yeah.
How much of the percentage for your end goal would you say you have to invest for starting?
Just on the Kickstarter page and including. Well, that's a really difficult to answer question. Also because a lot of effort is still going on. We're still doing updates, and we're still doing stuff. We're still sending out rewards and everything like that. But if I had to put a number on it, it'd be about 20%, something like that. So it's pretty hefty. So it takes a lot of work making everything apart from the actual content that you're selling.
Is that 20% of your total Kickstarter income?
Yeah,
which
something like that.
goes to costs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it include the cost for Kickstarter?
No. That does not. It's just the amount of work to create the Kickstarter, and with some how do you call it, slack. So it's 30% for the cost for your rewards and everything like that, and then 20%. But that's just something I pull out of my head. Just right now might be a little bit less, but I try to stay on the outside. So.
Why do you think the contribution jumped more for a new skin than an entire free game?
Well, Sword of Soldiers is an old game. It's 5 years old. Probably a lot of people who backed also already had Sword of Soldiers because they like Awesomenauts so much. They spent $50 on it, or $43. They probably also spent some money on Sword of Soldiers based on the fact that we made it. So they probably already had it, and also people really like skins.
Listening to your talk, I got the idea that you're getting pretty good at what you called evil money-grabbing schemes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a day job in itself. Your education is a game developer. You want to develop games.
Yeah.
Do you still enjoy this? I mean, it's a totally different piece of cake, right?
I personally, I enjoy the evil things. It's not actually money grabbing schemes. It's just selling your stuff, which is very important, or else you can't do what you love. I still enjoy it because it adds more purpose to what you make. Mm-hmm. So if you know something is going to do well, it's more fun to work on it. For me personally. it's cool if hundreds of thousands of people get to see your work, and just selling the stuff well helps that. So
Yep.
that's yeah, something that's cool.
And sort of related to that, it seems like Awesome Notes is going on for a long time and will be in the future.
Yeah,
Would you feel like making a new game?
Yeah, we're always feeling like making new games, and we have some projects on the sidelines that we're gonna explore in the coming years. So yeah, we are working on some stuff, but Awesome Notes currently is the main thing. We want to write this one out. So.
You say you don't have any community managers, right? Isn't that
Not really.
what you do? I mean, I can imagine that not all the coders are constantly on Facebook as well, trying to answer questions. It's like, well, how does it work?
Some of them are. We have a Facebook, and everyone in the company can basically post stuff on Facebook or answer questions. I basically do all the Facebook and Twitter stuff, but there are other guys who respond to questions, and also our coding team answers questions on our tech support forums in person. So there's no gateway towards our coders. They can directly talk to people and email with them, or send me your logs. You can find your logs here. It's just a really quick thing to do that way.
And it works well. It doesn't constantly distract them from what they should actually be coding.
It kind of does. So it's a difficult road to tread, but it also has a lot of advantages. And it's basically down to if you become if we were like a 30 people company, we probably would have to have a community manager. So it's not something you don't get a community manager. If you're small and you can do without one, it's probably good. Unless the community manager is really awesome and really great at what he does, then it's always good.
If you get a community manager, make sure it's a hell of a good one.
Exactly.
Basically that. Any more questions for Olivier? I guess we'll keep it at this then. I get to offer this to you. It's a miniature Indigo arcade cabinet.
Wow.
You can put it on your desk and sort of reminisce about this little moment we had together.
What games are on it?
I'm not sure. You have to figure it out. So thanks. Another applause for Olivier. Thanks for.